The San Francisco 49ers went out and paid Javon Hargrave a 4-year, $84 million contract. Only $40 million of it is guaranteed, but still they're paying him a lot of money with an average salary of $21 million a year. For every year he's able to play it, he will be getting a good chunk of money. The 49ers went on to the Super Bowl and nearly won it. So if they, maybe had one or two plays go differently in the Super Bowl, we're talking about this as one of the many moves they made to become Super Bowl champions. But since they didn't, we can discuss, was this the right call or not? And really what I want to talk about is, did Hargrave live up to expectations for the 49ers? Well, let's get into it. First, we can start off with some stats before we get into some film. You see that his numbers were not bad last year at all, according to box score stats, at least. I mean, the combined tackles was down, if that's something you're big into. But, still 7 sacks for an interior defensive lineman is very good. It's not quite the 11 sacks he had in 2022. But if you know me, you know that I'm kind of am a believer in sacks aren't the best indicator of how good a defensive lineman is. It happens all the time that a good defensive lineman might have an amazing year, but only have like 5 sacks, or they might have a terrible year, or like not a terrible year, but like kind of a mid-year, but still get like 15 sacks. Like sometimes it happens. So what do more advanced statistics say about this? Well, if we use Pro Football Focus grades, which I know aren't everybody's cup of tea, but let's just use them, you see that the grades were still pretty good last year. Now, he's someone who, and again, sorry that it's a little bit small on the screen, but he's someone who has never been amazing in terms of run defense grades, but has always been very good at pass rush grades. And last season, he had his 3rd best pass rush grades. So realistically, you got him coming off of the 11 sack season. That was kind of his career year. So you had to know that probably wasn't going to be what you get for every year of this upcoming contract. But right off the bat, statistics-wise, feels like he did live up to expectations and did do what the 49ers wanted from him, and he did give them that value. And watching the film, that's kind of what I saw. I saw a pretty good player for most of the film. Like, for example, something like this, going up one-on-one against an Arizona Cardinals guard. Watch how when this play begins, you see that power right off the bat to get towards the side to where that guard is essentially in a no-win situation. Here, you kind of have to choose, are you going to hold and just take the penalty, or do you let Hargrave go and take the sack? Well, it's a 3rd down and 10, so maybe taking the penalty isn't the worst thing in the world, but you're also kind of, on the outside of field goal range, so you don't want a penalty, but a sack would be a disaster. Looked like he tried to hold a little, but not enough to get a flag, and it did not go too well. There was a sack there. Again, this is what Hargrave can do to you. He can make decent guards look foolish at times, and he can make great guards look foolish at times, and he really is able to not just win, but gets quick wins. Like something like this too, where it's going to be again a one-on-one matchup against a guard, again in a big spot, a 3rd down, which he's so good on 3rd downs because he can kind of guess it's probably going to be a passing play. Here, not for sure, because the Giants could run the ball, but still, when this play begins, you see how quick he is off the line as well. Again, that first step always so important. But again, he's just going to kind of try to use his power, get all of his kind of leverage towards that right or the left side of the Giants guard's body. And watch him just power through. He gets over and he makes the tackle on Daniel Jones, and they're able to get a sack right there. So, again, really good play from Hargrave. And if you can pull off 1 or 2 of these, that's going to be huge. It just is. Now, if we want to talk negatives, again, I go back and forth on how much this could be considered a negative, but the way it works is it's going to be a one-on-one matchup against a Baltimore Ravens guard right here. Everyone remembers this game being a blowout. I feel people don't remember. This was, a 1-point game with 2 minutes left in the half. But anyway, it's, one-on-one matchup. When this play begins, you see that right here, Hargrave is losing. I mean, he lost the rep. It happens, right? It does. I mean, as a defensive lineman, you lose most reps you take in pass rush. That's just the life of the position. But still, I would say that this is I wouldn't call this a win necessarily. But here's where things get interesting. The 49ers obviously have a really good defensive line, a lot of talent around Hargrave. So watch how, when Lamar kind of gets flushed out, Hargrave is the one who gets over and is still able to make that play. I wasn't sure if he actually got credit. I believe that was ruled a sack. So, yeah, he was able to get one of his sacks there. And it's certainly not the massive win that you look for. But again, the reason why I kind of go back and forth on how we should view this stuff is, to some degree, you can view this a negative. You can say, well, this is going to inflate his numbers. This wasn't a spectacular play, but it gets an extra sack on a stat sheet, which is then going to make people think he's better than he actually is. Okay, reasonable enough. But the other aspect is he still made the play. He still got the quarterback to the ground. And sure, there was help around him. Sure, Lamar held on to the ball for a touch too long because he had to. He had nowhere to go with the ball. But that still didn't get him the sack. He still had to get in position to get the sacks, which, and a lot of times for defensive linemen, there are things that you have to go your way to get the actual sack. And even in plays like this, I brought up not the elite run defender, but he still has his moments. Something like this, it's a 3rd down and goal. You see where he is on the field. When this play begins, again, he gets kind of blocked out of the way at the line. Like I said, not the best run defender. But this is actually really good, and he is a pretty smart player, and he's going to show it off here, where watch how he looks over and he reads this play. That is where Lamar Jackson is. Lamar Jackson has the ball. He's rushing, and quite frankly, he's about to get a touchdown right here. But watch Hargrave get over, and when Lamar runs into his own guy kind of intentionally to try to get the touchdown, Hargrave is the one who made that play and got the stop. So, again, more of a pass rusher than a run defender, but will make these splash plays there. So, as a whole, I would say the film was very good, and the film was not, if it was worse than his last year film, it certainly wasn't massively worse than his last year film. If you want to, you can debate the logic of, signing a 30-year-old interior defensive lineman who's more of a pass rusher than a run stopper for $20 million a year, and you could say, how good of a decision is that? Is that the best allocation of your resources? That's the debate you can have, but if you're going to do that, Hargrave is the guy to do that with. He's a very good player, and he played very good last year for the 49ers. I guess the other maybe thing you would point to and say, is this not the best idea, is, in the regular season, I showed his PFF grades earlier, but that was with the postseason added on. In the regular season, he is someone who, got 630 snaps last year. So, because again, he got, had 3 extra games to accumulate more snaps. He is someone who, over the course of his career, has usually floated around 500 to 600 snaps, although did have over 700, but just over 700 in 2022 and in 2021 for the Eagles, where he also had his best 2 years. So maybe he just needs to be out there more. But still, a corner might be out there for 1,000 snaps, right? So you might be getting 400 more snaps, paying that money for a different position. But again, this is what the 49ers do. This is their logic. We're going to make sure we have a really good defensive line because that tends to be pretty predictable year in and year out. And we hope our coverage unit holds up. And, we're going to put more of the resources towards the defensive line, which is a strategy you can make for sure. So, as a whole, I think Hargrave's a good player. I think he played well for the 49ers. And if I'm a 49ers fan, I think I'm pretty happy with what we got out of him, I would say. So those are kind of my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.